Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing my second Q&A leading up to the return of The Walking Dead Season 5 with the second half, Season 5, Episode 9. Okay, and yep, so if you guys missed yesterday, did the death predictions on who we think is going to die coming up in the second half of The Walking Dead Season 5 yesterday. So it's in the channel. Go ahead and check it if you want to see it. Plus, did a first part Q&A. It was half an hour. It was quite a bit, but I enjoyed it, and sounds like you guys liked it too. So let me know what you think. Also, want some feedback. What do you think of the background like this? It's more zoomed out. It's not as zoomed in on me. And I'm thinking about, extending this a little bit and like doing some other things on the side, like putting another display and, extending it. So let me know what you guys think about the more zoomed out rather than zoomed in. I think it looks good. You can kind of see more of me and what I'm doing and my, movements and everything. So, yeah, so that's good. So I won't dilly-dally too much. Let's get right into the questions. So the first one, and what I'm going to use as like the topic for this Q&A as the lead question, is about Morgan, basically. People want to hear my thoughts on Morgan. I had quite a few. The one I'll use for this one is from Tyler Clarke, and he says, keep up the great content coming. I had a question about Morgan. Do you think they will only show him at each premiere and finale of the half seasons until he hopefully catches up to them in episode 16? Well, yeah, I think I think you've got the basic idea. So this was also a question from others as well too, is when is he going to catch up to the rest of the group? Because he was going, I believe, towards Washington, D.C. from what the map said, Rick Grimes and all that, right? But they may not necessarily head in that general direction now. We don't really know where they're going to go. So, are they going to meet up at the same place? What's going to happen with that? We'll have to wait and see. But I do think you're kind of right that they'll probably drop hints, or we'll get to see little quick kind of scenes of where he's at until he eventually shows up kind of out of nowhere. That would be a big show up. That would be one that I'd be thinking of for like either it's kind of like, I would think that'd be like a premiere or finale show up, meetup type deal. So I would think probably episode 16, like Tyler mentions here, I think that's probably what we can anticipate, seeing him actually meet up with the rest of the group. I think that's when they're going to have it happen. They could do it sooner. They could do it in the middle too, but I just tend to think because it's so big, it'll either be near the end or it'll be right away. So I'm thinking more towards the end, right? Because, we just kind of saw him. He was there. It's kind of like a flashback from his perspective of where he's at, but I would tend to think that this is probably a season finale or close to it. Maybe not necessarily episode 16, but like 14, 15, 16, that type of deal when I'm expecting to see him, catch the rest of the group. So it's kind of like the whole season he's been kind of trying to find them, this type of thing. And I think he'll show up when they probably need his help, which will be cool. I'm excited to see how they kind of bring him in and what they do with that. So that should be good when he'll catch up. I'm predicting end of the season. That's just what I think. Same with Tyler. So, but we might see a few more flashbacks with him and kind of where he's looking at that time, maybe in the premiere or something. But when he fully catches up, fully meets up, I think we're looking finale time. Because that's pretty big, don't you think, when they actually meet up with each other? This one's from Tyler Lewis, not Tyler Clarke, Tyler Lewis, and he says, have you ever cried in reaction to a character death? So this is one I'm going to do coming up. I'm going to use a thumbnail of Daryl carrying Beth, and I don't want to put that out right away because it's big time spoilers. People even say that my character spotlights are spoilers now, but it's kind of, I don't know why, because I do character spotlights like all over the place, all the time. I got to do one for Daryl. Does that mean Daryl just got killed? Oh, it's a spoiler, So it's kind of like they say it's a spoiler because they watched it and then they say, oh, it's this kind of thing. But I wanted to wait for a little bit to kind of put that out there because obviously spoilers. The death of Beth was so huge that I wanted to kind of wait until I put that out there. So I'm going to do that. And to answer your question, Tyler Lewis. Yes, I have. Yes. And it'd be weird that you hear it, but it was actually in season 3 when they killed off Lori. I cried. And mostly because of Andrew Lincoln's reaction to the death, right? It wasn't necessarily, and actually with the Beth death too, I shed a tear. I'll admit. Just because of the way they react to it, a lot of times. The death itself is like, boom, it just happens. And then you're in shock. But then when you see them doing it, then that, at least for me, that kind of forces that reaction out of me. So it's happened a few times because I get really into the show, right? Because I'm reviewing and I'm looking closely and trying, at least doing the best I can, analyzing it and everything. And when something like that happens, like, wow, So definitely when Lori died, I admit I did cry, and actually when Beth did too. But in terms of which was the saddest death, people have also asked that one. I'm going to do that video this week for you guys. I can't say a day because I don't know exactly, but I'm going to do it this week. I'm going to give my thoughts on which death definitively was the saddest. But I cried for Lori's death, Beth's death, and maybe Andrea's too, because I didn't expect it and I was so confused and everything. I think so. And then who else was there? There's been so many, right? Like Shane, Merle, when Merle died too, and you've got Daryl there and he reacts with Daryl face, that was pretty sad too, to be honest with you. So there's a lot of them, there's quite a few. I mean, the show does a great job of making us care for the characters. That's something The Walking Dead does really, really well. But anyway, I'll expand more on that when we do the video focusing on just that. Next one's from Mike D, and he says, if you could team up with one character from the group of survivors, who would it be and why? Maggie. And why? I don't know. It's a mystery. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so that kind of thing aside, let's say I had a group of my own, that kind of thing. Daryl would be cool to hang out with in a zombie apocalypse, don't you think? Or Michonne would be useful to have because, she's got the sword and she's really good at close range of just wiping out zombies, right? So any of those three, Rosita wouldn't be bad either. I think that's probably, Rick's cool too, being with, if you could pick just one person, I could see a lot of people choosing Rick as well too. So it makes sense. There's those. Next one's from DJ Sutty, and he says, hey Trev, what do you think will happen with the police officers and doctor left at the hospital? And other people ask, will we ever see them again? I don't think we will, man. I don't think so. I think it's like, they did kind of show us the Vatos in the deleted scene and what happened to them, but I don't think we're ever going to see those characters again at that hospital. I don't think so. The only way I could see them working it in is, what if like Judith got sick or something? Rick knows that they have, doctors there and stuff, right? Rick knows that at least one, and that I think could make sense that he would take the risk of going back there if Judith was sick or something. What do you guys think of that? I think that makes a lot of sense. That's something they could work in maybe. Unless something like that happens, I don't see it at all. I don't see it whatsoever. Who knows if we'll ever, because we've seen Atlanta. Keep this in mind too. We've seen Atlanta, not just twice. We've seen it a bunch of times now. But, in terms of story arcs, there's been two main story arcs involved in Atlanta with some back and forth in the episodes and that. So are we going to have the characters go back there again? I doubt it. At this point, I think we've seen it enough. I don't think we'll see it again. But, like I said, they could work it in the story if Judith gets sick or something. It would make a lot of sense that Rick would take the chance to go back there if that happened. What do you guys think of that? I think that makes sense. Next one's from Chris Toon Productions, and he asks, do you think that Carol could become one of Negan's wives, and that's how Daryl ends up working for him? I don't know. They could work in something like that. Those of you guys who haven't read the comic book series, Negan is probably going to be the next big villain in the Walking Dead television series, at least. It depends what you consider to be a big villain, but he'll be like governor level type villain or even greater. And he keeps wives. Like, he's got a bunch of women, I don't know. He's got a bunch of women that he considers to be his wives, that whole kind of thing. And he's the leader of their this group of a ton of guys. So that is what it is, right? So there it is. I don't know. It's not a bad prediction, Chris Dudes. I could see something like that happening. They've got to work in Daryl with him somehow, and I think they're going to. Should be good. Next one's from Rin THPS, or Rin Thips, or I guess THPS. And here she says, hi Trev, do you think Maggie will attempt, now this is kind of comic book spoiler territory. This is kind of in response to what's happened recently and how depressed she's going to get. So I won't go too much into the character into the question for people who haven't read the comic book series yet. I don't want to spoil anything. But, what do you think? I'll just shorten it to, what do you think Maggie's reaction will be to Beth's death? could she become, depressed enough to, give up, basically? Yeah, I think that's why I put her on my death predictions as one of the likely ones. Now, how likely? Like I said in that video, not that likely, but we could see something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if we did see something like that coming up in this half season. So it's a good question, though, and yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and we kind of can see something like that in the promo, at least in terms with her depression and everything, which is normal. You'd expect her to kind of react like that anyway. But yeah, we could see something like that. I think that makes a lot of sense. Next one's from T-Dog, and yeah, he asked questions in the last Q&A too, and he really does have T-Dog in his display picture for YouTube. And he says, do you think Morgan will make his way to Washington, and what do you think will happen? Does he find out that Rick won't go to Washington, and what makes him find out? I mean, how can we tell, man? There's really no way to know how they're going to work that in or how they're going to have them, unless he just kind of like tracks them and sees different signs and things. But how would Morgan have known they were going to go to Atlanta, this kind of thing? I mean, it's hard to tell, right? Of how they're going to run into each other. But I think he'll keep looking, and maybe if Rick and the group find their way to a community, maybe Morgan can find them on the way there or just kind of run into them, because I don't think there's that many survivors. Morgan needs to find a ride, I think. I think he's got to find like even a bicycle or something. He's got no way to get around. So yeah, so hopefully they'll bump into each other near the finale, or even sooner would be cool. But yeah, there's really no way for us to know anything about it right now. Next one's from Wesley DeRudier, and he says, I got a question for the Q&A. Whose death could have been avoided easiestly, or whose death could have been avoided most? And he says, Beth's, Dale's, or Andrew's. Well, Dale was killed off because the actor wanted to leave the show, right? So Jeffrey DeMunn, I think that's his name. He didn't want it to be involved in the show anymore because Frank Darabont left, right? And he's loyal to him. He was in Mob City too, and a lot of other Frank Darabont stuff. Even the Shawshank Redemption, he plays like a lawyer, which is cool. So who avoided the most? Beth's death, a lot of people feel really weird about, because they kind of feel like, did it make sense for her to do that at that time? Should, maybe they should have just left Noah, or maybe they should have just said, no, you can't have Noah, and walked out and saw if Dawn was going to pull a gun or something like that, you know what I mean? And see where, what happened with that. So I don't know. Andrea's, well, the governor, you can't really control what the governor's going to do. I don't think you can avoid that. So again, Dale's was outside the show, Andrea's, that kind of thing. And Beth's death was kind of unnecessary. I mean, they didn't really care much for Noah anyway, but she did what she did. It's not like anybody else in the group could have stopped her. But yeah, definitely, Dawn could have just let it go and just gone on with things. I don't think it was a make it or break it thing to request Noah. I don't think so. Yeah. Next one's from Mike Mondelli, and he says, do you think that Eugene is faking being unconscious so the group keeps him with him and avoids getting yelled at some more? Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think he's dead at this point. Now, some people ask why I did that video. A lot of people asked me if he was dead. That's why I did the video mainly. It was because people asked and I responded. That's why. Because they could kill him, but I don't think they're going to. Like I said, he's probably a no for me. So yeah, he might kind of be like, he just might not be feeling that great, depressed because he's finally come out with it and knows that Abraham hates him, and Abraham's one of the people he spent a lot of time with. So, and Rosita and the others and how they feel about him now, he's just kind of probably disappointed with himself that this has come to the surface, I think. I think that's it. Next one's from Harb. And he says, first of all, I want to apologize for being a very inactive subscriber. I've been watching since 2012 and very rarely message and comment, but I'm going to change that starting with this question. Do you think that AMC would have the balls to introduce Negan by him being the one to kill Daryl? That shit would be most shocking scene in television history and would instantly give Negan the ultimate asshole title amongst most fans. Well, that might actually make fans hate him too much, I think, right? If they did that. So, I don't think so. I tend to think that Daryl is one like comic book Michonne or like Rick, where I think he's actually one of the ones that's going to survive like permanently or like right on through, like forever. Because here's why it makes sense to keep Norman Reedus on as Daryl, is because if Andrew Lincoln in 5 or 10 years doesn't want to do the show anymore and has tons of money, you know, because he will, right? He will, you know, he's a millionaire already. He's, you know, tens of millions he'll be, I think he's already worth, or going to be worth soon anyway, because he gets paid a lot per episode of The Walking Dead. You know, we're talking millions of dollars per season, basically, at least $1 million a season. So, you know, if he decides that he no longer wants to do the show, you know, it'd be good to have someone like Daryl there if Carl's not old enough, so that they could kind of, you know, have other characters that people care about. Because he's like the number 2 in the show, I'd say. You know, you've got Rick and then you've got Daryl. Now, Shane was at a time, yes, but that was kind of already set in motion that he was going to be killed off anyway. So I tend to think that Daryl is probably a character that's going to survive for a super long time. And I don't think they're going to kill him off anytime soon. I'd be really shocked if they did. Which they might, but you know, I just don't see it. So I think he's going to be in there for a long time. And Negan will probably kill somebody, but who it's going to be, I don't know, man. It's too early to say. I think we haven't seen any kind of foreshadowing, telegraphing, or anything. Yeah, exactly. So. Next one is from Reacted 1991, and he sends through a prediction of his own I wanted to share with you guys. He says, my prediction, I think Morgan is going to join the group real soon. I highly expect it to happen the next episode, honestly, because since this whole hospital arc is over now, I think they're going to start following the comics again, because what Michonne said the previous sounds a lot like what she says in the comics around when Aaron showed up, and Robert Kirkman himself hinted at it in The Talking Dead, saying a gay character should be showing up in this show pretty soon. Maybe Noah was part of Alexandria, and he's trying to convince the group to go there because it's safe. And for Maggie, I think, okay, so he goes into some more details and stuff about what he thinks is going to happen. So yeah, I think you might be right about that with regards to it being close to the comic books with everything else. But I don't know about the Morgan part. I hope he shows up as soon as possible, but I tend to think, it's just my opinion, like I said earlier, probably end of the season, because it's going to be a big event when it happens. Next one's from Gel, and he says, hey Trev, a big fan from Holland. Anyhow, do you think Rick hasn't lost his humanity yet? Or he wants to, I guess he just wants to hear my thoughts on Rick losing his humanity. Well, he kind of has, you know. He doesn't view himself as a sheriff anymore or anything of the sort. He kind of just, he says, you know, used to be, or I was, or, you know, past tense type thing, because he doesn't view himself as one anymore. So in a lot of ways, yeah, he has totally lost it. Now, I think he's got a switch though, because he takes care of the people in his group, right? But then when it comes to anybody else, he's not trusting or anything of the sort. So I think we're going to see some more of that in the second season. But yeah, he's total badass right now for sure. Hitting dudes with cop cars and all kinds of stuff, and executing them basically when they're talking some smack. Yeah, I can't go back, Bob. Next one's from James Brooks, and let's see how many minutes we're in here. Okay, I'll make this the last one for this one, because, you know, we'll do some more. Probably tomorrow or the next day. I'll do another one, or I'll do that saddest moment type video pretty soon. James Brooks says, do you think a demolitions expert would make for an awesome villain, putting bombs inside of walkers and setting them off whenever he or she wants? That's pretty clever, man. That's pretty clever. That'd be awesome to see, right? You can't get up close, so you have no choice but to waste your ammo from keeping them from getting closer, and even then, the bomb is still armed. That's a good point. Walter White would be the man in a zombie apocalypse. I'm just saying, he would just be feared, man. He would be incredible. So, yeah. Yeah, so I'll call it there, because I don't want to go on too long in the Q&As. I know people tend to drop out after a certain amount of time, so 30 minutes is pretty long. Only once in a while will I do 30 or 60-minute Q&As. Other than that, I'll split them up. So let me know what you guys think about all the different questions in this one, what you think about saddest moments, what you think about Morgan, and when you think he's going to return. Those are kind of my thoughts on what I think. And also remember, comment on the background and the zoom, right? You know, what do you like better? Is this better? Is it better when it's closer and you can kind of see just, you know, the outline of that? And should I add in a third one and kind of extend it and put some new posters? I'm thinking about doing that, because the Walking Dead collection keeps growing. So I've got some other posters I kind of want to use, so I'm thinking about getting. So let me know what you guys think about all that. If you like the video, please thumb it up below. If you want to help support the channel, please share it. Please favorite it. And that's it for this one, guys. See you pretty soon. Maybe tomorrow. I don't know. I got to take a day off pretty soon. I'm pretty tired. So anyway, Trev, same peace.